Hey everyone, welcome to Friday night's episode of Frenchie's Nook. Hope everybody had a great week so far. I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to share some news with you as well as some great content. This week over on PTSD, The Truth Behind a Smile, I shared with the viewers different situations of triggers, different ways to avoid triggers, different ways to deal with triggers, as well as different ways to manage them. And I'm going to go over them briefly tonight, just so that you got an idea as to, just in case you didn't tune in on Tuesday or Thursday, you can see what it's all about and what we're talking about. So like I said, this week we've talked about triggers and how surprising they are and how interesting they are that in your early journey of PTSD, it's not... you can't figure them out, and it's very difficult. And it's very difficult to pinpoint what the triggers are, where they're coming from, and how to prevent them or how to avoid them. So this gave me some insight as to what I was going to talk about and how I was going to deal with it. And I came up with a few different reasons as to, or different ways to deal with them for myself. And as usual, I only talk about my personal experiences so that you guys can get an idea as to what it is I'm dealing with. And you may or may not be dealing with the same thing as well. But when it comes to triggers for myself, I haven't narrowed them down. I haven't been able to pinpoint what causes them or how to avoid them. So what I do is I avoid situations that, or I don't put myself into situations where I may be triggered. You ask, how do you do this? Well, I do it in different ways because my triggers are different than other people's. I mean, some of them may be similar, but everybody's different and everybody reacts differently. So my triggers seem to be large crowds, lots of noise. Lots of noise and large crowds are even worse. And anything where I'm being pushed into a situation where I'm going to be anxious or where I'm going to be on edge. I take a step back here and I try to figure out, and with the doctor's appointment today, I was trying to pinpoint where the on edge comes from and where the constant feeling of being rushed comes from. And well, I attribute it to being on the fire department, and I attribute it to being specifically on a volunteer fire department where you're wearing a pager on your hip, 15, 16 hours a day, and the other hours of the day it's sitting on your nightstand by your bed. You ask, why does this create an on-edge situation? Well, it creates on edge because you never know. You never know what you're going to do. You never know if you're going to be able to follow through with your plans. Past tense. I never knew if I was going to be able to follow through with my plans. I never knew if I was going to be able to attend an event and stay through the whole event. I'll be the first to admit, I missed birthdays. I missed big birthdays. I missed, holidays. Responded when I was on vacation. I responded when, situations made it difficult, but I responded anyways. And as a volunteer firefighter, you never stop. And kudos to the guys that continue to do it, because it's something that becomes ingrained in your head and becomes ingrained in your body, in your mind. And it's very hard to get rid of that. And it's very hard to look at that and go, okay, I'm not in the department anymore. It's time to get out of that mindset. For some, it may be easy, but for some, it's difficult. And for me, I find the biggest part of the problem is it's hard to get out of that. And it's hard to get out of the feeling that you're constantly being not rushed, but you're on edge, right? Because it was ingrained in you for so long that you never knew what was going to happen. You never knew when those tones would go off and you'd be gone. Um, you'd be gone before a family member or anybody would say, hey, wait a minute, you're out the door. Why? Well, that's the job we signed up for, right? And I'm not going to say it was easy, and it was never easy to leave the family, but it's something that had to be done. And I struggle to think now what my family was thinking and how they felt, but it was a job, and I had an obligation to fulfill that. And unless I was able to fill my position or find somebody that could cover for me, I was required to be there, and I was required to show up. And that's fine. That's part of the job, and I get it. But it's become ingrained in me now so deep that it's hard to let go of it. It's hard to let go of the fact that I'm not on call anymore. I have no reason to be on edge, and I have nothing's going to go off. I'm going to have to take off and leave here, and that's very difficult. And that leads me to the triggers, because I'm always on edge. I'm always anxious. It's very difficult to calm down. Not calm down to the point where I'm angry. It's just difficult to be in a calm state. So how does this lead to triggers? Well, I try to avoid situations, like I mentioned, where I'm going to feel rushed. As I've mentioned before, PTSD ingrains in us that we have to overthink. Overthink, overplan. It doesn't end. And as I've mentioned before here as well, I can talk myself out of anything. I've talked to several people as well, and this seems to be a real staple with PTSD, and it's not cool. And I don't, it has affected me, and it's affected my kids at times, because, at one minute we're going, and then, an hour later, we may not be going, or we're doing something different, right? Because my mood has changed. The last thing I've ever wanted to do with PTSD is drag anyone else into my own problems, right? But it's difficult, because a lot of the PTSD signs or symptoms, I guess we'll call them, are unconscious. They happen, and you almost have no control over them. You have to accept them, and you have to work through them. And that's just more work on top of everything else. On top of your day-to-day getting through, those are things that you have to, when you get a feeling like that, you have to accept it. And you have to say, you know what? This really sucks, but it's okay. It's okay that I feel this way, and I have to move on, right? Accept the feelings and move on. So where does that leave the triggers? Well, how to avoid them? Don't put yourself into those situations. Don't put yourself into situations where you're going to feel rushed, or you're going to feel anxious, or you're going to feel uncomfortable, or it's going to be loud, or it's loud and noisy, or it's going to be, 1,000 people in a small space. You need to try and maybe prepare yourself for these things. Now, how do you prepare yourself for a loud, busy, crazy, and noisy room with 1,000 people? Well, I'm going to tell you how. Position yourself against a wall, a side wall, a back wall. If you're not in a building, position yourself at the far side of the park, or wherever it is, the back of the park. Make it accessible so that if shit goes bad, you can leave for a little bit, and you can go and take a breath and figure out what's going on. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, because it never is easy. PTSD is full of surprises. And there's not a week that goes by that I don't learn a new surprise. But but you need to learn to deal with them. I'm not saying get over it. No way am I not saying that. I'm saying you need to find a way to deal with the triggers. You need to find a way to pinpoint what they are and how you can work through them or how you can avoid them. Or maybe not even avoid them. Put yourself into that position or trigger for 5 or 10 minutes at a time. Say, you know what? I'm going to do this for 10 minutes. If it's going well after 10 minutes, maybe I'll try 5 more. If it's not going well after 10 minutes, it's okay. I can leave, you know? But you need to prepare your family, or you need to prepare your friends, or you need to prepare whoever's with you that this may happen. And it's not to do with anybody. If I get up, then assume I'm just going to the washroom, or assume that things were getting a little hairy inside the old noggin here, and you need to remove yourself. Now, there's going to be the naysayers out there, and there always is. And how do I deal with the naysayers? Well, put yourself into our shoes. Put yourself into a situation where you can't control it. You can't control the beginning of it. You can't control the outcome of it, or the process of it, and you can't control the end or the outcome of it. What would you do? How would you prepare yourself for a situation like that? That is what we deal with day in and day out. It's difficult because not everybody sees it. Not everybody gets it, and that's fine. I don't expect everybody to get it because it's so complicated. I don't get it half the time, but I need to work through it because this is a journey day in and day out. Is it frustrating? Hell yeah, it's frustrating. Is it easy? No, it's one of the hardest things you'll probably ever do in your entire life. But you need to do it. Because if you don't do it, you know what the alternative is? Staying home. Never leaving your house or your apartment or wherever it is that you live. Could you imagine? Overthinking everything and never leaving? Not really logical, is it? Not acceptable. It's not something that you could. It's even hard to process. So that brings me to, I guess, in a conclusion of how to avoid them. Plan it. Don't over-plan it because you'll talk yourself right out of it. Just plan it. Think of what may happen and prepare yourself for that. And prepare yourself for what may happen, good or bad. Don't get me wrong. You may get there and 20 minutes may go by and you go, holy crap, it's been 20 minutes. I'm doing great. I only wanted to be here for 10 and I was going to check in with the old noggin after that. But you need to prepare yourself because it's not an easy journey. I mean, I've got, many fellow PTSD sufferers out there that I talk to regularly that say the same thing. This is not a journey that's easy. It's not a journey that we can predict. It's not a journey that we can plan. All we can do is plan to do our best day in and day out. Plan what you're doing to a certain point. Like I said, don't talk yourself out of things. So help me God, that's a big mistake. I mean, it's easier said than done. And there's a few of us that I know that are really good at this. We excel at talking ourselves out of things. You know what? If I could put as much energy into excel at talking myself out of things, and if I could take that energy and put it into planning or processing triggers, I'd be laughing. This journey would be much easier. But you can't focus your energy. I can't get my energy focused on that. Energy focuses mainly with PTSD sufferers on, worry, overplan, overthink. Why aren't they calling me? Why aren't we going here? When are we going? What are we doing? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? It never ends. You need to prepare yourself because that's a trigger. Are there other triggers? Sure, there's probably others. Can I nail them down? Well, to a certain point. Oh, sorry, very small point, yes, but not really. Um, what seems to affect me the most is not so much EMS when I see them, or firefighters when I see them, or police, or I mean, not so much affects me, but military or 911 dispatch. What affects me the most is the big orange chopper in the sky. Why? Because anytime that big orange chopper in the sky goes over, the memories start coming back. Because those are difficult times. Can I remove myself from, well, first of all, I can position myself in a way that I'm not near a fire department. Sure, I don't move near one. Mistake number one for me, it's right around the corner. I wasn't thinking. Anyways, that's something I have to deal with and live with. Um, don't don't move near a police department if it affects you. Don't move near an EMS station if it affects you. But when it comes to the big orange birds in the sky, and I refer to orange ambulance, obviously, can't avoid them. And that seems to be one trigger that I've been able to nail down, a big one. Other than the big crowds or the loud and the noise. Or, orange ambulance has been a big one. And I can't remove myself from it. And if somebody talks about it, or if I see it in a newspaper, or if I see it on the news, it's not the same. But if it flies over my head here in Stratford, which happens not often, but on a regular basis, I would say, it's like getting a knife stabbed in your back. It that's a trigger that hits home, and it hits home very quickly. And that's probably the only one I've been able to nail down. And whether it's a trigger or not, I don't know what defines a trigger. I mean, there could be many things that define a trigger for you that are different from me, but it's definitely something that hits home. Because let's face it, when that orange ambulance flies over and you're at a scene or at an accident or at a situation where you are waiting for them, there's nothing like watching that orange bird land, and you know what's going on because they don't come for the easy stuff. And I've seen these people work magic. And I know my kudos is to those medics that are in the ambulance, the nurse that flies along with them, the pilots. They are top notch. These people, let's just say that as a first responder, we're taught to be on our best or at our best as quickly as we can and all the time. They're taught the same thing, obviously, but they're on a different level. And that level is scary because they don't come for the simple things. We don't call them, or they're not called for the easy calls. And when one of those birds fly over my head, you can't forget it. It's a trigger that's hard to put out of your mind. And that's not one that's easy to avoid, and you can't avoid that, right? You can't position yourself to avoid those things. And those are just things that you have to process. And when it happens, and you need to work through it. You need to deal with it. And no, it's not easy. In my conclusion, triggers, it's like a slap in the face. You never know when you're going to get one. You never know how long it's going to last. You never know where you're going to be when it happens. You never know what you're going to do to process through it. Because what may have worked last time to process through it may not work this time. And that's the joys of PTSD. And that's the joys of triggers. And as I've mentioned to you this week on PTSD, The Truth Behind a Smile, if you guys don't follow me, if you're watching this from the bunker room and You don't follow me over on PTSD, The Truth Behind a Smile, that's fine. I do these shows on Friday nights to kind of recap. If you'd like to catch it over on PTSD, The Truth Behind a Smile, you're more than welcome. I'm not here to take away viewers or anything for anybody else, but you can watch it over there as well. I do segments on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 o'clock. If you're more than welcome to join. But I enjoy doing this segment as well for the Bunker Room and for Carl's page, so that you can get a different view on things, right? You can you see Carl's view, which is great. I mean, you see people commenting on there. You see people in the group that you see regularly that are that are striving, that are pushing the group, that are doing things and coming out with different scenarios that make the group think, right? And my view is just a different view. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's my view. And I like doing these because I like sharing it, because I think that everybody needs to see a different view, right? Everybody's able to grab different things from different segments, from different shows, from different Facebook pages, and that's great. Because PTSD is not something that's written in stone. Yeah, you can read about it, but does it nail it down? No, not at all. So in conclusion, how are you going to avoid a trigger? Well, first, before you can avoid a trigger, you need to nail down what the trigger is. If you can nail down what the trigger is, shit, you've got it made, right? You can plan ahead, you can avoid, you can make sure that you're going to be prepared to process it when it happens. But until that happens, just stay positive, because this is a ride. And me, I'm not big on rides, as most of my friends and family know. You're not going to catch me on a roller coaster. You're not going to catch me on something spinning up and down and backwards. It's not going to happen. And this PTSD shit, it's a ride. It's a ride that doesn't stop. It's a ride that doesn't slow down. And you can't collect $200 when you pass go either. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there. Because sometimes all you can do is kind of laugh at it. I'm not saying dismiss it by any means. But if you can't work through it, or if you can't figure out where you're going with it, then if you can have a good chuckle, at least you can have a good chuckle, right? Some of you may or may not know. We've been touching base this week on veteran affairs, which there's been some pretty ugly crap going on in the government this week. And I've taken a bit of slack. Not much, but there's been one or two people on my site that don't seem to agree with me, and they don't seem to agree with my views. But you know what? There's many more that do. And those are the ones you have to look at. Those are you got to look positive, because you can't pay attention to the naysayers, because they're just going to drag you down. That's right. Stay positive. Keep your chin up. Keep your head above the water. And keep your stick on the ice, right? Keep playing the game. Because if we're not playing the game, we're not in the game. And if we're not in the game, where are we? It's Labor Day weekend. This is the last long weekend of the summer. I hope everybody's out right now enjoying it, and they're not, waiting for this show to be broadcast or waiting for this show to be posted. You can catch it anytime. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your holiday, because this is it. Summer is coming to a grind. It looks as though September is going to be warm, which is great. But school starts next week for those of us in Ontario, or for those of the kids that are in Southwestern Ontario, at least. I know Eastern Ontario and the French boards have started already. But this is it. Summer's coming to an end. Enjoy what's left, right? Enjoy the nice weather outside. Whether it's raining or not, enjoy it. Go out. Do something this weekend. Do something. If you've got PTSD yourself, do something for yourself that you haven't done in a long time. or that you've put off in a long time. Because that's what you need to do. In the end, like I said earlier this week on my shows on PTSD, The Truth Behind the Smile, in the end, it's you. That's right. Who's going to worry about you? You. When you get up in the morning, you look in the mirror. That's who's looking after you. You are. You need to be happy. I'm not saying dismiss what's going on because that just makes things worse. But you need to be happy. Put a smile on your face. And surround yourself with people that are positive. You don't have time in your life. There's so much. Life is too short. Don't surround yourself with negative people, please. Surround yourself with positive people. The people that are going to be able to pull you through the triggers, or the people that are going to be there to give you a phone call whenever they don't see you show up on Facebook, or you don't respond to a message that they send you, or you don't respond to one of their texts. Those are the ones you need around you. Those are the people that are going to look out for you, and those are the people that you can count on. Just remember that. Surround yourself with good people. Have a great weekend, everybody. And I hope that everybody enjoys their long weekend, and I hope that everybody's kids get off to school on Tuesday. And good luck to all those kids that are going back to school. I hope they have a great day. And we'll see everybody back here next Friday. And I'll post it here once again in the Bunker Room and over on my page as well. And like I said, if anybody is interested in, coming over and watching some PTSD, The Truth Behind the Smile segments, you can catch them on Tuesdays and Thursdays nights, 9 o'clock. And if you don't make it at 9 o'clock for the live show, well, they're always there. But have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy yourselves. Don't drink and drive. Don't text and drive. Be safe out there and have fun. Bye now.